Oh, good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good, good. I didn't hide those details. We just didn't have time. My name's Aqualyn Kennedy. I grew up in Texas, and I just want to tell you from the beginning, I'm a product of Catholic schools, 1st through 12th grade. So that's going to kind of frame a little bit of how things came to be. And I have a couple of notes. If you see me looking down, that's what's happening. So I remember as a little girl, and take it back to the beginning, when I would pray at night. I used to pray for all the children who were starving, because this is what we always heard about every day in school. We had the globes. Did y'all ever have the globes like on the teacher's desk or something to put the money? Well, every morning I would go in, put my money in, my lunch money in, come home. My parents would say, well, what'd you have for lunch? Well, I didn't eat. I put my lunch money in the globe. I did that a few times, and they were like, stop putting your lunch money in the globe. So I was like, okay, well, how else can I care? I have to find a way to do something. We can't have these children out here. I've always wanted to help and figure out what I could do. So I learned a little bit more about Mother Teresa. And I don't know how familiar you are with her, Mother Teresa, but she has helped the poor and the indigent and the starving and everyone else. And I was like, my God, I want to be just like her. So this is what the Catholic stuff. So I wanted to be just like her. I want to be a problem solver. I want to help people however I can, because I just want to be, a helpful person in the world. So moving on, I went through school, went every day to class, never missed a day. Sickness was not part of our vocabulary at my house, so there was no sick day. Everything was fine until I got to college. And I matriculated at Spelman College. So at 18, I started Spelman. At 18, that's when Mother Teresa became a nun. So this is very interesting. We kind of have these very critical parts of our lives where we make these decisions. And when I decided to go to Spelman, I decided to be a math major because I thought this is a great way to be a problem solver. How else can I, help people? So I go to class, and I'm walking to class within the first month. And as I walk across Spelman's campus, something happened, and it was a pop. And I was wondering, what was that? Was it my ankle? Was it my wrist? I wasn't sure what it was. And I kept walking, and I wondered, why is the grass so green? And why are the trees gleaming? And, things looked very different, very, very glossy and alive. So I got to the building where we actually have class, and I saw everyone standing outside. And I was like, well, why are we standing outside? It's 8:01. Why aren't we in class? And they asked, excuse me? Like they didn't understand what I said. And I said, but why are we standing outside? Like it's 8:01. Usually we're right in class. And they were like, hold on. And they got some more people together, and they said, excuse me? And so I said it again. But this time I listened to myself. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. And I realized nothing was coming out. So I didn't know what had happened, but I knew that for some reason I couldn't talk, and no one could understand me. So I went to class and decided I'm going to just be quiet and try to figure this out on my own, because that's what we do. So I'm thinking through it. I can't figure out what's going on. I go back to the dorm, go to my next class, which is philosophy, and I had a test in philosophy. And now I'm trying to answer the questions. So something about Socrates and Plato. And I go back and look at my test paper, and I wrote, the red balloon flew west at one point. And I was like, I wasn't thinking about balloons. I wasn't thinking about red. What is going on here? So I was able to complete it, but it took a monumental effort. I mean, my paper was horrible, scratch marks and everything, excuse me. So I managed to finish the test, and I kind of went on about my day trying to be quiet and not bring attention to myself. Well, my roommate was like, no, something's wrong with you. We're going to send you to the infirmary. And I was like, no. So by this time, I knew I could say single-syllable words, but I couldn't express myself. I couldn't do anything greater than a single syllable, no sentences or what have you. So I convinced her to let me go to sleep. I wanted to sleep it off. The next morning, I was not better. So she and a couple of friends got my mother on the phone. They sent me to the infirmary. They sent me to the hospital, and the hospital sent me home. And this is what happened. I arrived at the hospital at probably 9 o'clock at night, and it was a Saturday. And they said, well, you're going to need to come back on Monday when the neurologist is here. So I went home, and I was home for a day and a half before Monday came. Granted, Monday I came, and I actually went to Emory University Hospital, which was a much better place to attend. I'm not going to talk about the first hospital, but Emory University Hospital in Atlanta is amazing. The neurologist there saw me and figured out that something had happened all within 1 hour. And he had me admitted and basically said, you're going to have surgery. They found a tumor in my heart that had broken off and struck my brain. Now, I never missed a day of school. So when you talk about heart disease and stroke and things of that nature, many times people think that, you have to look a certain way, or, you're overweight, or you're this or that. Yes, those are all things that do happen, but they don't have to happen. You can look just like me. I was a cheerleader. I was in great shape, perfect health, or so I thought, until this happened. So it was really, really a challenging time. As I was being wheeled in to have the surgery, my father was saying, look, I'll take you anywhere you want to go, anywhere you want to go. And I said, Jamaica. And, okay, so I'm in. So I come out of surgery, and luckily everything worked out well. One thing, though, they ended up finding that the tumor had destroyed my mitral valve, so they had to replace it with an artificial valve. It's a St. Jude's. So as I'm sitting in my room recovering, I don't notice it because, again, I'm not listening to myself. But apparently I'm speaking with the strongest Jamaican accent anyone's heard. And so I had every doctor in Emory that was on rotation come to my room. I met everybody. And they talked to me, and I can't even begin to do it, but they talked to me, and then they talked to my parents, who sound like me now, and they asked her, where is she from? And they said, Texas. So, needless to say, I had to go through some changes, some training and therapies. I had speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. And everything worked out well, and over the next couple of months, I was better. But I did end up withdrawing that first semester of freshman year. So second semester came, that was my first semester, and that was it. So things were good. I determined at that point there are two things that I really wanted to do. One thing was I wanted to make sure that I graduated with my class, because I moved my senior year of high school, so I did not get to graduate with them. So I went to summer school for 2 summers to make sure I did that. And the second thing that I wanted to do was get a really good job with excellent health insurance, because my parents told me that, look, with this that's happened, you need to make sure that you always have a good job. So basically, I wanted to share a little bit more about, after that, I left, I went on and lived my life. Things were pretty good, and I thought everything was A-okay, totally great. Well, in 2005, I started my own business. I left the comfort and security of a large company in health insurance. And within about 6 to 8 months, I got sick. So sick that I had to go to the hospital. It ended up being a gallbladder situation. And it ended up being complicated. There was a complication, so I ended up there in the hospital for a week. So once I got out of the hospital, the insurance started to ask, well, what happened? What's that connected to, et cetera? And they decided they were not going to cover me. I never had a gallbladder problem in my life, but they linked it back over to my heart. And that began my advocacy for healthcare reform. They left me with a $50,000 bill, and I had just started my new business, and I had no money. So I advocated for myself for 2 years, and luckily the hospital actually forgave the bill. I think that they understood what was coming, and just how unfair it was. It really was not my fault that I had this gallbladder problem, and that's what the insurance was supposed to be for, and it wasn't. So I started working on writing op-eds, and that's when I learned about the American Heart Association. And I started working with them. I started telling my story, and I started teaching the signs of stroke and heart attack and things of that nature. I had personal stories with stroke, of course, because teaching about FAST, F-A-S-T, sudden changes in your face, arms, if you can't hold your arms up, your speech, times of the essence, making sure that you call 911. So I was teaching all of this, and it was really powerful, and everything was great until 2013 when I suddenly had a heart attack. I know, it's like, how much more can you go through, right? So I had this heart attack, and I will just go through quickly. I was able to recover, which was fantastic. Within 6 months, I had a cardiac rehab. I went through cardiac rehab. Everything was great, and I recovered. And shortly thereafter, I was invited to tell my story along with 11 other survivors about why we needed healthcare reform and why the health exchanges that were being worked on were so vital. And so that was one of the best days of my life, outside of marrying my husband there, as recording me. That was October 1st, 2013. I was there with 11 others who had gone through similar types of stories, had battles with the insurance industry, and managed to survive. And we were really advocating there had to be a change, and we were going to speak out, and we were going to let people know that that needed to happen. And the reason those things happened was because, for me, the American Heart Association. This is why I'm so committed to this organization. I am here because of the work that this organization has done for decades, the research that they've done, the mitral valve that I have, the doctors who've been involved, not just from a cardiac perspective, from a neurology perspective, across the board. It's not just about heart health, it's about all health, because everything affects the heart. We all know that heart disease is the #1 killer, right? We know that. I don't see it, yes? Okay, so heart disease is the #1 killer. And everything connected to that, anything that challenges your body will ultimately challenge the next thing and the next thing. It's almost, the hip bone's connected to it. It's very similar. So it's going to eventually get there, and we have to do whatever we can to stop it. The American Heart Association is committed to health equity, making sure that there is health access for people, all people, making sure that we reach into each of the communities locally. Although it's a large organization, it's a wonderful organization, it's huge, but it's not to be overlooked in terms of, look, we don't want to, help that because it's large and it's not local. This is as local as you can get. I'm right here, and every last person here. It's the research that has happened has helped the hearts of every person in this room. What's great about the American Heart Association is they knew before I did that I was going to need them. That's why they do the research. That's why they work with the doctors and the researchers and NIH and various agencies and all over the place to make sure that they can bring together what's needed. And we're just so thankful that you all are here to help with that and to support that. So in conclusion, I have not stuck to my scripts at all, so I apologize. I want to find out where I am. In conclusion, there are 3 main things I want to make sure that everyone remembers. And the first is, when I had my situation, so the stroke and then the heart attack, which I didn't go into, I waited a day. I was like the queen of denial. This did not happen to me. No, I can deal with this. I'm going to breathe through this. You can't breathe through a stroke. You cannot breathe through a heart attack. What you're doing is you're creating more stress on your body, and it's just creating more problems in the long run. Time lost is brain lost. Time lost is heart lost. Time lost is health lost. The minute you see something weird, something strange, something sudden happen with no cause, that's when you call 911. That's when you go get medical attention. When I had the first heart attack, and I had 2, by the way. When I had my first heart attack, I waited a day, and by the time I got to the doctor, to the hospital, I was in severe heart failure. I shouldn't have been at that point. I shouldn't have had to work that hard to get myself back to the best that I could be. I could have really stemmed a lot of that. So there's some things I can't control. My situation is hereditary. So just like Lisa talked about, some things I can't control, but then there are others that you can. And one is response. When you see something happen, you need to respond immediately. You need to be knowledgeable of what's happening with people around you. When you see something happen to them, don't let them do that. Say, okay. And you go ahead and call 911 and let them be mad at you. But you have to do that. The next thing I would say is sudden changes your sudden changes in your health, which is one thing that I said. And then the last thing is we have to advocate. Nothing will happen if we don't advocate for it. right? And the only reason we have healthcare reform is because so many organizations and so many people spoke out. The only reason that we have any of the things that we have today is because we're fighting for it and we're speaking out. And that's what the American Heart Association is all about. It's bringing people together in every little community, in every little town, to fight for what's right and to make sure that we have everything that we need. So with that, I'm going to ask you, what's your why? Who inspires you? For me, it was Mother Teresa. And it's always been that. How do I help? This is why I do what I do. This is why I tell my story. People are like, oh, I don't want to tell. I was like, okay. But when I tell my story, it helps people remember something, and they come back to me and tell me, oh, I saw my mother this, I saw this, that. You know, it helps. It helps people. If you want to help, maybe you don't want to tell your story, but look for other ways. But there's a very special way that you can help tonight. And I think that Lenice and this team will be able to tell you more about it. So with that, I'm going to leave this to you to determine what it is that you want to do and how you want to help make a difference and change the world. And it's in your hands. Thanks so much.